Hello, everyone. Welcome to the North Texas Teen Book Festival. I am Angie Mahalik. I am the librarian at Coppell Middle School West in Coppell, Texas, and I'm also a member of the steering committee for the North Texas Teen Book Festival. You're in for a treat. We have the Get a Clue panel and some fabulous authors today. We have Allie Carter, Lillian Rivera, Colleen A.F. Venable, Stephanie Yu, and Stuart Gibbs. Welcome all of you. We're excited to see you today on this Saturday in March. We are going to kick this off with a student question. Aaron from Jasper High School has asked, in what direction do your mysteries develop? What comes down on the paper first, next, and last? How exactly do you begin? And is this with the end in mind? So if Allie, you would like to kick this off for us this morning?
So you chose the person who takes the longest to create her plots and is the most miserable human being on the planet while she's trying to figure out all of those things in that question. So yeah, it's sometimes I begin with the end in mind. Like sometimes I know the twist ending or something like that. And sometimes I really just start with a character and the question of what's the worst that can happen. So I've got this girl who goes to spy school. I've got this girl who's an orphan and is looking for her mother. I've got this girl who's the daughter of a Secret Service agent living in Alaska. I've got these characters and I ask myself, what's the worst thing that can possibly happen to them? And so then you just kind of go, okay, and then what's the worst thing that can happen after that? And then how do I make it worse and worse and worse and worse and worse? And then hopefully at the end we find a way to make it better. But sometimes I do in fact know like the twist ending or where our ultimate destination is. But sometimes it also takes me many drafts to get there. And so I'm wondering if maybe our student question came from an aspiring writer. And so I always like to make sure that they know you don't have to know when you start and you don't have to know on the first draft. Like that's what rewriting is for. And so don't be afraid to rewrite.
Great. Anyone want to add to hers or share how you begin?
I mean, I'll say I do it slightly different, which is I know the ending first. And then I have to work up to the ending. So I have no idea what happens in the middle. No clue. I have this bad habit too. When people ask me what I'm working on, I'm like, this is my book idea and here's what happens. And I tell them the twist every time, to the point my friends won't let me talk about books I'm working on. They're like, you're gonna ruin it. But yeah, for me, I kind of know, and it's great because I'm working with Steph, I'm working on a graphic novel. So when I'm writing my scripts, I have to add the little visual clues that Steph will draw in the background that'll start to give those hints to the ending. And eventually I figure out the middle, but usually that's a lot of editorial, like editor help for the middle.
I have to know what the end is before I start, but that doesn't mean I can't change my mind. So there have been a couple of times when I've been writing and thought like, oh, wait a minute, it actually shouldn't have been that person, which means I wrote a mystery so good that even I didn't know who did it.
I love that. I mean, I think it's always for me because I want to be surprised. So I want to know, I definitely want to know the ending, but I also want to know who is it that Goldie is going to think is the person who did it? Like what's the false clues that's going to lead her down the wrong path? And to me, I never know what that is because I'm like, I want to be surprised because I have no idea. So yeah, I think that's me, but definitely I have to know how, who did it, who's the culprit. I need to know the person that she's going to end up solving the mystery,
Good. We're going to start with Stuart. You've had numerous books released every year, and I know this comes up on our campus. The students want to know, how do you manage to write so many books simultaneously each year?
Yellow pads. I don't know. You can actually see my office here. You can't quite see it. There are like yellow pads everywhere, like this, and I just have all these. I have everything written down on them to try and keep track of different stuff, and I have book Bibles and right. So it's a lot. I'm hiding a mess here. It doesn't look like I'm the most organized person in the world, but I can actually organize my writing far more than I can organize my office, I guess.
Excellent. I want to kind of switch gears. Stephanie, You've previously worked in game design and animation, and we have a lot of gamers online right now. How did you get your start in game design, and did that lead you to where you are today?
Oh, I think I was very lucky. I had a friend who was working at the company who she recommended me for an internship and then they hired me after I graduated, which is unheard of in the arts. So that was mostly luck. I think it was just knowing the right person. The second part
They
of the
wouldn't
question.
hire you if you weren't talented.
I was gonna say that.
It's humble. Sorry. Yeah. I'm like your hype man.
But yeah, I mean, like all of the drawing skills, all of the draftsmanship and the actual like creation of art does translate pretty well into, I mean, any narrative art. Games have narratives, animation, obviously narratives, and then graphic novels. It's just a different medium, it's a different way of controlling pacing with the page turn as opposed to with a timeline that is fixed. So the drawing part of it is actually like, I feel like once you have those foundations, that translates pretty well. I think. I don't know. Other people are reading this.
And Colleen, I know you're also an artist and have designed numerous cover arts for many books. Where do you get your inspiration, and does that influence what you write?
I mean, I read a ton. I read so much. I was always my parents actually, and I feel bad for the librarians growing up because my parents both worked late nights. So they would leave me at the library after school for like 4 to 5 hours. And I was a little hyper. And those librarians, bless their hearts, figured out the types of books to put in front of me that would shut me up. And like it wound up being like Sherlock Holmes and Agatha Christie and these type of things. So I think reading a lot of mysteries made me I love the feeling when you feel like you figured it out. And I love the feeling when you didn't and there's that twist. Like it's good both ways. And I got really into mysteries. And even when I'm not writing a mystery, like I wrote a teen book, Kiss Number 8, that accidentally became a mystery too, even though it was realistic fiction. So it's one of these things that I just kind of like having, like, you don't know what's happening in real life. Like every day is a mystery to you there. And I like trying to get that experience into books. So yeah, definitely inspiration from librarians and from libraries. And oh my goodness, I feel so bad for them. They really were like babysitting me for free, but it worked out.
So that kind of leads us to, I know Allie and Lilium and Colleen, all of you have just ventured into middle grade from YA and some picture books as well. What inspired this transition, and do you have a different approach writing for middle grade rather than YA?
I'll start. This is a pause. I just, it's a challenge, right? And I love writing young adult, but middle grade to me is way more magical and wondrous and innocent. And for Goldie Vance, Goldie is based off of a comic book created by Hope Larson and Brittany Williams. And so I was able to, read all the comics, of course, and then fall in love with Goldie. And Goldie has such a strong personality, and she's such a go-getter and so positive, and her friends all want her to solve the mystery. And so I love that. It feels like a very, I grew up watching Scooby-Doo, so it was like the team ready to get the, figure out the, who's the guy, the darn kids, whatever, right? So I love that idea of, of you and your friends just trying to figure it out. And so to me, it was just a really great challenge, and it's also a great way for me to let go of all the teenage angst and sadness and trauma that I love to write about. But with Goldie, it's all about, positivity and, happiness and figuring things out, which I need. I need the balance.
For me, it was more like coming back to middle grade in a weird way, because I'm now so old and so publishing old. I've been doing this for so long that when I started, like my first YA book, I'd tell you I love you, but then I'd have to kill you. Like it's a 15-year-old heroine. we don't write 15-year-old heroines in YA anymore. Like there's this like no man's land where, you know, you can write about 12-year-olds and you can write about 16-year-olds. But in between that, we do not publish books with characters those age. And so the YA market has just moved steadily older and older and older. And so I had a good friend tell me, who's also an editor, who said that if you were to submit your first YA to us today, we would reject it. And this is a book that sold millions and millions of copies. I'm like, you would reject that? And he said, yes, we would have you rewrite it for middle grade and resubmit. He said, we do not publish YA books that age anymore. And so that was kind of a light bulb moment for me of being like, maybe I am a middle grade writer. It's just that when I started, middle grade and YA have kind of, the line has moved. And so really the big difference now between a YA and a middle grade in my mind, and this is kind of a joke, but also kind of true, is I like to say that it just has, my middle grades have less kissing and more fart jokes. And that's pretty much just the difference. So it's lots of whimsy and adventure.
This is the problem with me not being muted. I can't not laugh. With me, I feel like I was building up to it because I always wanted to do it. My favorite book of all time is The Westing Game. I still reread it once a year. I've talked about it too much that like friends have sent me first editions. I have 3 first editions of The Westing Game and I want more. I want my entire bookshelf to just be Westing Game. And you know, I wrote, the teen book was the first book I ever tried to write, and that was something that was very personal to me. But like, you know, it definitely was, like Lillian was saying, you get very angsty when you're writing teen books and you have to get into that mindset, and it's hard. And I think I was very hard to be around when I wrote for teens. And writing for middle grade, there was so much more, I could be a little goofier, I could be a little more playful. And I feel like middle grade has the power to be that book that changes a kid's life. Teen does too, but it doesn't happen as often. I feel like a middle grade is like, they're very impressionable. They're starting to figure out really who they are. And I love to be able to be a positive force, hopefully, for someone that age.
I just have to digress and say this is the greatest book of all time.
I know.
And none of my friends have ever sent me a first copy of it. So I don't know. Apparently you have better friends than I do.
They are very sad looking first copies. They have been like run over by tractors or something. I don't know. But they're still first edition.
Such a good book though. Oh my gosh.
And Stephanie and Colleen, I know you work closely together, author, illustrator. Can you give us some insight into what the collaborative partnership looks like between the author and illustrator?
I think sometimes it just looks like sending funny cat gifts to each other. I've seen this one and then like, oh my gosh, yeah.
But it winds up being inspiration because in the book, there's 217 cats that all have superpowers, but they're not really. It's just like this cat is an expert on flying jet engine or flying jets, and this one's an expert hacker and things like that. So we like are constantly like, I remember Steph sent me a picture of like they make tiny motorcycle helmets for cats.
They're like this big, and it's a tiny motorcycle helmets for cats.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
a lot of like,
this would fit in the book.
Do they also make like tiny sidecars that the cats ride?
Oh my gosh, they should.
So many possibilities.
That'd be amazing.
Wait, wait, there's 217 different cats.
Yes.
And you have to delineate each one of them.
There is a very long list.
Right at the end.
That's amazing.
There's also like a spreadsheet that Colleen, I'm really glad that you printed this out. It's all taped up and it's about like this tall. It's off screen over here. And it lists all 217 cats and their superpowers, plus the pages they appear on. This is very tying back to the question about animation. When you're used to like using timesheets and just being very, very detailed about like, oh yeah, when it's like, you know, each frame by frame in animation. In comics, it's also 200 some page graphic novel. And this giant spreadsheet of 217 cats and the pages they appear on, so that I can now go and reference, like, make sure this cat is, you know, looking consistent. And we had one cat that I like to say he changed outfits 3 times throughout the book, and I had to go back and correct that.
Because I just have to, were you like at a point where you're like, well, we should do 218, and they were like, no, that's just crazy. That's just 218 would be.
There's a joke in the book about that,
There
actually.
is.
Oh, 218 cats would be ridiculous.
Yeah, that's just too many. That's one cat too many.
But I think it says something to like our collaboration that Steph hasn't murdered me for having this as part of the plot point. And I think it's just like I write a script, but it's like Steph can take any of that and change it and make it better. And like she'll like do the paneling different. And it's this great back and forth where I just love the collaboration of it. And that's why I love graphic novels.
And I love when I get the manuscript too, because it just makes me laugh. And that's always good.
Thank you both. This is a question from Avery from Jasper High School for Lillian. Do you have any tips on how to start writing? And was it easier or more difficult to write a continuation of another work?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think, well, the thing about writing is that you just have to do it. Like, I don't think anyone is going to give you the time or space to be creative. You know, everyone is always saying, oh, you need to have a good, steady job. That's what my parents used to say, like, go look, find out how to, use a typewriter so you can work at an office, which is what I did. But, writing is really, creative. So you have to really dedicate the time for it and carve time, space, and time. And so I try to do that because I really love it. And I feel like I'm gifted, if you're a writer, then you are gifted and you have to, work at it and kind of grow it. Right. So I think you could write on Instagram, you could, write a poem on Instagram. You don't have to wait for someone to tell you that you're published. You just do it. And the other thing about writing for Goldie Vance was just, it was just a challenge, but I love kind of challenges because I get a little bored like everyone, I know my stories. I have a lot of stories. I have a lot of ideas, but sometimes you just want to like kind of live in a world that's already created and explore that world. And Goldie's world is fun because it's set in the 1960s. She lives in a hotel. She, so you have all the like sock hop and drag racing and all the music. And I fall in love with the research of it. And I listen to it. I watch movies and I kind of get the vibe of what Goldie Vance would have lived, what her life might have been like. And she's also just really fun and funny. And so I get to, talk about, I don't know, things that maybe people don't know about, or maybe you'll read about it later, but it's really kind of fun to write about sock hops and clothes and all that kind of cool stuff that and it's set in like a imaginary place in Florida. And I just, I want to hang out by the beach. I mean, all those good things. So, yeah, it was fun. It was just nice to live in another world,
Thank you. I have a question for Stuart from Rushil from Coppell Middle School West. He says, I have read all the books in the Spy School series and have always been wondering what would happen if Erica Hale was actually to turn bad in Spy School Revolution. Please burn this question and flush the ashes down the toilet before answering.
All right. Well, it's a good question. I'd say, like, obviously, when you're writing spy stuff, it's a big part of the genre that somebody is going to flip to the bad side, or there's going to be moles or double agents at some point. But I have to say, Erica is, I don't like to give away anything that could happen in a book or anything like that. But Erica is, and for those of you who don't know, Erica has been. She's a legacy in the spy business. She's Erica Hale. Her family goes all the way back to Nathan Hale in the American Revolution. They've been spying for America since before there was an America in her family. And she just, Erica is not the kind of person who is going to switch sides. You want to give a little bit of possibility about most people maybe being able to go back and forth, but every once in a while you have to have somebody you're like, nope, that person you can always rely on. They're always going to be there. And even if there's a question as to their loyalty, at some point they're going to come out true blue at the end.
Sure. Thank you. Amy from Creek Valley Middle School is wanting to ask Allie Carter. She wants to know if you will be making a movie or TV series for Gallagher Girls or Embassy Row.
never gotten that question before. No, I ask that question literally every day myself. So that's what I totally get, people having that question. And the answer is I can't say anything right now. But know that all authors want that pretty much. I don't know that I know any authors who don't want that. And we are all constantly, open to those possibilities. And I'm working with some awesome people right now and trying to make it happen. But the Gallagher Girls, those have been constantly under auction for about 15 years. So it's never a matter of, yes, this is going to happen. Like, I will believe it when the cameras roll. But in the meantime, we just kind of keep working ahead and trying to get them in the hands of the right people who have the right vision and the right drive to make it happen. And you never ever know, but stay tuned, because we've got some interesting things kind of in the works that I'm very excited about. I will say this: I feel better about our chances now than I have felt in the past 15 years. That is not yes, and that is not no. But I do feel optimistic at this moment. So
That's
I
great.
just say that a lot of time kids want to know what they can do to try and help something
Mhm.
get made, and the real way is just to for the book series to just sell so many copies that the movie studios can't stand in the way. So if somebody wants Gallagher Girls to be a movie, just get like your closest 20 million friends to go out and buy copies of Gallagher Girls, and
exactly,
or any of our
Right.
books really, and
Absolutely,
right, and then the studios will be unable to resist. So
yes.
They need to grow up and be a director or producer.
that also.
Mhm.
So
What I will say
Determined.
this: the last time I was in Hollywood doing meetings, it was so interesting to walk in, and almost all of the people that I met with, they all have these very young, very uber organized, really on top of things assistants, and
Yeah.
they were all like, "I was a Gallagher girl growing up," and so it's those girls that were like 12 telling me, when I grow up, I want to make this into a movie, are now working at movie studios, and so that was an amazing feeling.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I know, Stuart, looking at your website, I saw that you have this guerrilla marketing tactic that you do. Share with us what you would like for our readers to do.
Well, and again, this isn't just for me, but
No, it's for
well,
everyone.
basically, I just encourage kids to do things like go into bookstores and move my books so that they're cover out, which or just move them to the front of the store and put them on the stands, or just announce really loudly, like, oh, where is the new Stuart Gibbs book? It's the best book ever, and so it's. I don't want them to do it at the expense of anybody else's books, necessarily. I mean, I'm not going to throw shade at like Harry Potter, but I think she's doing okay. So maybe if you wanted to like turn the Harry Potter books so that the spines were out and put mine so that they were face out, J.K. Rowling will be all right. She'll be all right with that.
I'm totally gonna change my website now. But I'm gonna say, if you're listening to Stuart, just change it to Lilium. It's fine. He won't mind.
Right.
I love it. I think it's a great idea. So those of you watching, take those ideas.
I like to get the community involved. I think that's
Yes.
Some people want people to do good things for the world, and I just want them to do good things for me. Really.
I love it. So that kind of wraps up what our questions entail, but I want to give you all an opportunity to share with us your most recent book and just a little bit about you if you'd like. So we'll start with Stuart and go from there.
Oh, okay. So my most recent book, which just came out, is Charlie Thorne and the Lost City. So this is the second book in the Charlie Thorne series. Charlie is the smartest person on earth, even though she's just a 12-year-old girl. And because of her great intellect, she has been dragged in the first book the CIA has brought her in on a mission to try and track down a mysterious and dangerous equation that Albert Einstein discovered. And in this book, she is on the trail of something mysterious and dangerous that Charles Darwin discovered on his travels around the world. And so there's all sorts of bad guys and adventure. It's globe trotting and Charlie matching wits against a whole bunch of enemies, and so it's I was a huge fan. My favorite movie of all time is Indiana Jones or the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I always wanted to write a series about somebody really smart having adventures all over the world, and so that's this is about as close to Raiders of the Lost Ark as I've ever gotten.
Excellent. Thank you. Stephanie and Colleen, would you like to share?
Sure.
You
I
want me
feel
to
like Colleen could do more of the talking, but
Not this yet.
oh, wait, yeah.
Katie the cat sitter. I'll do it like this.
So this is a first in a series. I just finished writing book 3. So kids that are like, we have to wait so long for book 2. I'm like, it's a year. Like Stephanie's drawing so fast. The basic plot is, this is Katie. She lives in New York City, and every summer her friends go away to camp all summer. Katie doesn't have as much money as her friends, so she's kind of stuck alone in New York City. So this is the year she decides she's going to get odd jobs around her apartment building and try to raise the money to go. And unfortunately, she doesn't seem to be good at most of the things she tries to do. She kills all her neighbors' plants. You know, she can't actually carry groceries. She's very tiny for her age. And her upstairs neighbor invites her to be a cat sitter, which is strange because it's a pet-free building. And even more strange because she finds out her upstairs neighbor has 217 highly trained, probably evil cats. And as time goes on, she starts to realize that her neighbor is always gone when the city's most notorious villain is committing crimes. And I say crimes in quotes because they seem to be things that are actually helping animals. So it's kind of my version of The Tick and Batman and name anything with lots of cats, like probably an app. So it's just this very goofy world. And it's about a 12-year-old that kind of steps up and she becomes the hero for the city in a lot of ways.
I think there was one reviewer who said it was like Neko Atsume.
Yes.
It's The Tick. I'm like, oh yeah, that feels pretty good.
And it's partially based on, you know, growing up, I didn't have much money. Again, I basically stayed at the library all the time, and I tried to do odd jobs all the time for money, and I failed miserably. So the beginning is actually dedicated to all my neighbors whose pets I killed, or not pets, oh my God. Plants I killed. That'd be a very different statement. The pets were great. The pets were fine. I was good at that part. I'm gonna go hide now.
Thank you for that. So, Lillian, would you please share about yours?
Oh man, yeah. So like I mentioned before, Goldie Vance is based off of a comic book series, and so this is the second book. It's Goldie Vance, the Hocus Pocus Hoax, which I can't say the title because I always stumble. And so what I love about this one is that it's set that she lives in a hotel, and so there's always conventions happening, and this time there's a magicians convention. So all these magicians are at the hotel, and someone is sabotaging the acts. And so Goldie Vance has to figure out, you know, what's going on, who's doing this to these, you know, acts. And I love it so much because it combines the two things, detective work and magic, which I'm obsessed with. I'm still like, I feel like a little kid every time I go see someone do some magic tricks. I'm like, how did you do it? So, and the great thing also about this book is that it has a little comic book insert into it. So you get a little bit, and it's tied to the action. And so I really love that. And so, yeah, Goldie has to figure out who's messing up all the magical acts.
Excellent. Thank you. Allie, we will end with you.
Okay, so my newest series is, well, the first book is called Winterborn Home for Vengeance and Valor. And the newest book that just came out this week is the sequel, Winterborn Home for Mayhem and Mystery, or Mystery and Mayhem. I get it confused, I'll be honest. And it's about a girl named April who's 12, and April's been in the foster care system for 10 years. Her mom left her at a fire station when she was 2, with a note that said she'll be back for her, and with a mysterious key. And so April knows that her mom's going to come back for her because people, you know, don't walk away from keys to treasure chests. And so this key matters. This key is the literal key to finding her mother. And eventually she ends up living at a home of a mysterious billionaire. And the house has been turned into an orphanage. And it's for the Winterborn family. And the key has something to do with the Winterborn family. And so she knows, like, if I find whatever this key opens, I will find my mother. only when she moves into Winterbourne House, she doesn't find the key opens, she finds Gabriel Winterbourne, who is the guy who's the billionaire, who it's his house, and everybody has thought he was dead for the past 10 years. And so April is the only person that knows he's alive, he's living in the basement, and he's up to no good, and I'm going to help him. And so in the immortal words of this author named Stuart Gibbs, who's pretty great, it's Batman meets Annie. And it's been so much fun to write my first middle grade book. And I really love April and all of these kids. And I really hope people will check it out.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is Batman.
Those of you watching, you can purchase all of these books from bookshop.org. And the great thing on bookshop.org is that it is divided by each of the panels for the North Texas Teen Book Festival. So you can search by Get a Clue and find all of their great books. Thank you all for your time today. We appreciate you participating in the North Texas Teen Book Festival, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks so much.